Witchers, welcome back to the Witcher Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, or Robots. I'm here with Toasty, who just survived jury duty and didn't actually have to sit through jury duty, got let go, which is congratulations. I know you didn't want to have to be there. Thumbs up from Toasty. Also, I'm back from the Elder Scrolls Online Vegas event last week, so we missed you. If you didn't see us or hear us or see us, I guess if you watch the YouTube, you see us, but most of you listen. That's what was going on last week. But we are back, Toasty. We're back with a Bestiary episode. We're talking about Foglets. Foglets in the games and in the books, and then Foglets, I guess they're not in the books very much, but and then
in the games,
and then the my favorite part, the real world inspiration for the monsters on the second half. It was
a bit of a weird one. It's a bit of a weird look into the real world mythology, I will say. So.
They are kind of a weird kind of creature. I mean, they're in that like necrophage camp of the like weird humanoid kind of creepy crawly things. All right, so where do we start?
All right, so foglings, or foglets, have different names, are magical beings said to have arrived during the conjunction of the spheres. They tend to be found mainly in swamps, forests, or in the mountains, and lure their prey into traps using magic. They have glowing eyes and mouths, keen ears, and long pointed fingers, and feed on the bodies of their victims.
Sound wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful guests for an evening party, a soiree.
Yeah, and for anyone who's like played The Witcher 3, you know what they're freaky looking. Like I always think they look kind of like the really like scary, ugly like Nosferatu type vampires.
Okay.
Like think about it, like that's kind of what they look like. They're real like gaunt, skinny, decaying looking,
kind of hairless,
long, creepy fingers.
Yeah, like gangly arms, Gollum like.
Yeah, my friend Sky in chat is over here. I think the Foglets were the first thing. He's playing through The Witcher 3 right now, but I saw him struggle a lot with those guys. So
yeah, especially when you're running into 5 of them when you're 15 levels under. Yeah, yeah, when you're under leveled. Yeah, no fun.
But so, like Tom said earlier, they are of the necrophage variety of monsters. They have a couple variations, Ignis Fatus and Tangalore, the very specifically named ones. They occur in the Isle of Mists, Kaer Morhen, and in Greater Velen, where you see a lot of it.
There's like lots of monsters in Velen.
There's tons of things in Velen.
It's just kind of a dirty cesspit of monsters and poor people.
Yep.
Not that poor people necessarily. Oh, I'm gonna get added from this. Don't at me. I don't mean that the poor people are the terrible part. It's just a very poor area. It's not like one of the cities. Anyway, here we go. I'm already digging my hole.
Already digging the hole. They are susceptible to moon dust, necrophage oil, and Quinn. Of course, moon dust to help you see where they are, because they tend to like to turn not invisible, but fairly close to it. And Quinn just helps to prevent from getting hit by them when they strike out from the mists.
Appear like behind you out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Loot, Foglet teeth, Foglet mutagen, and lesser blue mutagen. And then Tangalore has specific things to that particular Foglet, which are emerald dust, infused dust, monster essence, and phosphorus.
And
it's kind of a unique one to have, one of the named ones give a very specific list of loot as opposed to the rest of them. So,
yeah, video game things.
So foglets can appear wherever thick fog arises, swamplands, mountain passes, or the shores of rivers and lakes. If no fog is forthcoming, they can create or summon it themselves.
Oh God, where does the fog come out of?
Their mouths? I don't know. It seems that's the nice answer. I know where your brain's going.
I was thinking their pores on their skin. There's like venting out.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
By manipulating fog, they can separate travelers from each other, hide trails, and deafen noise. like ghastly glowworms, their bodies emit a pale light they can use to lure those lost in the fog towards the ravines, swamps, or caves in which they make their lairs. So kind of like a terrifying anglerfish.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't go towards lights in the fog.
Yeah, don't. Really don't. I'll get to the actual real world reason for that later. Yeah. When fighting Foglets, a Witcher must remain calm and keep his wits about him no matter what. Since Foglets can take on immaterial form, a slight shimmer of air or a rustle in the grass might be the only clues a Witcher has to their location. Casting the Ard sign at these beings will cause them to become tangible, giving purchase to blades and other weapons.
Got it. So look out for the fog. Look out for the lights in the fog. Use your wits. Be a good Witcher.
And Ard. To help you see them better.
Right.
Got a bestiary entry from The Witcher 3, which, by the way, Witcher 3, the only game that these things show up in. So,
yeah, these
are one of the unique ones that we don't see in all the other ones. So.
Yeah. So this is from Johannes Strud, a guide. Should I read this?
Go ahead.
If night ever catches you in the swamps, stay put and wait for dawn. Even if it means standing waist deep in water with leeches crawling down your trousers. Oh, God. Most important of all, if you see a light in the fog, never, and I mean never, go towards it.
Yep. Fog is the traveler's foe. In the forest, it can make one lose one's way. At sea, it can send one sailing into the rocks. Yet such dangers are nothing compared to the monsters known as foglets, which sometimes lurk within it. These creatures have powerful arms and claws like Zeracanian kinjals. Yet what makes them truly dangerous is their mastery of deception, beguilement, and disorientation. Many times they need not attack at all, instead simply driving their prey to madness or into boggy marshlands, after which they wait patiently for it to drown in the muddy waters.
So they just lure you into the mud and then you just get stuck.
They're patient. They're patient monsters.
Yeah. And then you get leeches down your trousers.
Yeah, that's rough, buddy.
I mean, I guess that's not as bad as getting, destroyed and eaten by a bunch of foglets, but it's still pretty gross and terrible.
Yeah, pretty gross.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So what do we do about these when fighting? We heard a little bit about Ard and these kinds of things. What else is there?
So rapidly thickening fog tends to be a sign that they're close. Preparing Quinn if the fog is accompanied by snarling.
So if the fog shows up out of nowhere very quickly, that's the first warning sign.
It starts growling at you.
It starts growling at you, snarling. Like it's probably not a dog in the fog. It is a foglet.
Yeah, I would also just like to point out, like, prepare Quinn if anything that's not supposed to snarl starts snarling at you. Probably is a good idea.
Yeah.
Note that without the use of any signs or bombs, when a foglet is invisible, one can't harm them at all. So make good use of Moondust, Erden, and Ard to force their corporeal form to appear and do damage to them. Also note that while they're invisible, paying attention to the more glowing part of the fog will indicate where they are so you can prepare for their attack. It is possible to counterattack a foglet as they materialize to attack, a good way to begin your offense.
Yeah, so they kind of go transparent. They creep around, and then they come at you, and then they like reappear when they come at you. But as long as they're transparent, you can't do anything. So you got to get them to appear. And if you can't get them to appear, be ready for the attack and then respond.
Yeah, but you can of course blast them out of it. Like if you, like it said before, if you use Ard while they're in that form, that can force them into the corporeal, and then you can like start going after them.
Right.
So you have options with these ones. So you can one-hit kill a foglet with a well-timed Ard sweep. Watch very carefully the fastest moving fog once it goes invisible. Once it gets closer, cast Ard sweep immediately. With a high sign intensity, you can knock the foglet back, rendering it visible again, and allow you to do a one-hit kill.
Nice.
Yeah. Foglets can also create illusions of themselves that can cause physical harm while the real Foglet stalks the area. Damaging the illusions disrupts them and can reveal the Foglet's location.
Illusions.
Yeah, so they can kind of create like copies. Yeah, it is not fun to have to deal with, copies of a thing. But at least for Foglets, they don't regen like Ginny O' the Woods like night wraiths whenever they do that.
Right. But if you do run into what seems like a group of Foglets, sometimes it's not as many as it appears because they've got those copies going around.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, jeez. As with any of these things, obviously this is like video game stuff, but to imagine dealing with something like this in real life, like to be walking through the fog and then all of a sudden have a creature jump out at you and then it's not the real creature because that was a copy of it and the real creature is now creeping up behind you and you got to look out for the glowy fog. Like, I can imagine that Foglets in most situations, except for when they come across, say, a witcher or a really well-prepared sorcerer of some sort, chances are they're successful because they limit the visibility. They can turn invisible. They can multiply what seems like to be more than what's actually there, so they can really freak you out. And then they're pretty effective once they get in close. They get like a dangerous hit on you and you're down. You're done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that like an actual like real mage would have no issue dealing with these things because they have real spells and some of those things are pretty potent. They would know.
Right.
I don't know how they would handle it because we don't really see as much on that side of things. But yeah, I'm like, Witchers have their like little baby spells with signs, So, well, like a real sorceress can throw a damn fireball if they want to. So
yeah, as long as they notice the signs, right? Like the rapidly appearing fog, the growling, and then the parts of the fog that are lit up as opposed to other parts. Like if they are ready and they know what that means and they're aware, I'm sure they can prep a spell to be able to handle that situation.
I'm trying to think, like, as I just had a thought. It's a random thought, but we see like in like the games, like Yennefer favors lightning a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like whenever you like, she's like fighting with you or whatever. And we know that the NPCs don't do jack shit when it comes to things, but like,
sure,
this is actually like more realistic. Yennefer would probably be popping off and making Geralt look bad all the time.
Right. Yeah, because if you could just blast a foggy area with a bunch of lightning and just sizzle all the foglets.
Is the foglet fog still like moisture? Because if that's the case, the electricity doesn't disperse through it. Are they like? Do you just have to blast the fog and then they're just done? Because like, it's still their form. Their form is in the fog, so it would hit them.
Right.
So.
Or maybe the lightning helps reveal them because of the blast of light and the trauma of it. And then once they're revealed, you hit them with another blast and then just fry them all. And then you have foglet steak for dinner.
Don't eat foglets. They're necrophages, which means they're like dead things. They're like rotting things. Don't eat them, please.
Don't eat
them. It would be bad. Also, pretty sure there wouldn't be a whole lot of meat there because they are very scrawny. So
right, it's true. Okay, don't eat foglets. All right. Well, that's the game stuff. We're going to take a quick break and welcome our new patrons. We got some new patrons this week, and then we'll be back with talking about the real world mythology underneath this weird, creepy monster. So don't go anywhere.
Very well. Let us get this over with. Something has infested my vineyard.
Mm-hmm. Great. Let me go prepare my something oil then.
All right, here we are in the middle of the show. This is where we get to thank our patrons, and we have two brand new patrons this week. Welcome to Myrk, M-Y-R-K, all capital. I don't know if that's the way you pronounce it. And to Tizer46, our newest patrons. And Tizer is a tier 4 patron and will be able to join us during the chat at the end of the month, which is coming up in just a week from today. Yeah, this is the 17th as we record this. That'll be on the 24th, so Monday the 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. You're welcome to come join us, and we'd love to have you as part of the show. Also, shout outs to our higher vampires, Ben of Temeria, Cody and Carly S, and Jared M. Thank you so much for your support. And to all... wait. Oh, hold on. Nope, I didn't hit active. Nope, it's just Ben of Temeria and Jared M. I was like, wait a minute, did they sign back up?
I was like, did they sign back up? I was like, wait.
Yeah, they're from the previous. They were previous patrons at that level. We'll just keep shouting them out anyway. But thank you to all 11 of our current patrons. And if you are interested in checking out the ad-free episodes, helping to support the show, if we're helping you get through your workday, if we're making your commute better, if you would like to join us on a future episode, if you want t-shirts, there's all sorts of awesome stuff. Go to patreon.com/Witcher Lorecast. Check out everything over there. Also, we don't have any new reviews this week, but if you would like to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we'll read out your words on a future episode. And if you listen on Spotify, you can leave us a rating on there. So 5-star ratings on that would be awesome as well. And you'll notice that there are little questions on each of the episodes, on the newest episodes, that say things like, what do you think about this episode? Feel free to leave a kind comment on there, and we would appreciate that because it helps people know that this show's worth checking out. So those are all the different ways you can help us out, and tell your friends and all of that. So thanks for being here. Thank you, patrons, and let's move on with the rest of the show.
You smell of death and destiny, heroics and heartbreak.
It's onion.
Right, yeah.
All right, so now we get to the weird stuff, right? This is usually where things get real weird. The real world inspiration. Where do we start?
Yeah, so this was definitely a bit of a weird one because a lot of some of these things I don't actually like. You have a bit of an idea where to start with some of these monsters. Sometimes you don't. And so thanks to weird sentence, thanks to Reddit, because I was trying to look at where basically what Foglets were based off of. I found a Reddit post. I didn't look to see who it was, but they essentially said that they are in their country, which I'm assuming is France because of the term that they used from what I've been seeing. The Foglets are loosely based off of something called a fou follet, I think.
Foufollet.
Yeah, something like that. Which are a Louisiana monster or Louisiana folk tale that has its roots tracing back to France. So I think that's right. Yeah. They also said that a Foufollet is like a good representation of like these kinds of things. Like they aren't like malicious monsters, and that the follet is like the one, like the mischievous ones. I will say I looked up just follet and everything I got was about the Foufollet. So
yeah, F-E-U is fire.
Yeah.
So there's like the normal ones and then the fire ones.
Well, they are. I can't remember. They're called I think it translates to like fire in this. It's like fire in the swamps or fire in the mist or something like that.
Yeah, follet means fool.
Okay.
So maybe these are just like that, yeah, maybe these are just like swamp fools, like
something like that,
right? Like swamp people.
I will explain the real life explanation for this stuff at the end because that was a very interesting thing. But anyways, so the Foufollet of Louisiana derives from the French. The legend says that the Foufollet is a soul sent back from the dead to do God's penance, but instead attacks people for vengeance.
Well, that's messed up.
Yeah. While it mostly takes part in harmless, mischievous acts, the Foufollet sometimes suck the blood of children. Some legends say that it was the soul of a child who died before baptism.
We got that again. Yeah, we get some of those in these old monsters. Yeah. The whole
Which a lot of this explanation is based off of like Louisiana folklore specifically, because that is what I found the most prominent of, which I assume is pretty closely based on like the actual French explanation. But
yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, as our international listeners, Louisiana is very French. It is like of the places in the United States, Louisiana and that area, that region is still very French culture there.
Yeah. Tales of the Fouglet are often coupled with another light spectacle in folklore called Will-o'-the-Wisps, which I think might sound more familiar to people. These small, mysterious balls of light lure unsuspecting travelers off the beaten path and deeper into the woods, away from the safety of the known and into the eerie grasp of the unknown. Sound familiar?
So the light in the fog.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Many report the strange illuminations around the bogs of England, but they've been seen worldwide and are called by many different names.
Right.
Which a lot of different names, just like translations of kind of the same thing. So the big takeaway here is, because I was able to find a lot of explanation for this, Will-o'-the-Wisps, which I've seen those put in many different medias. So
right. And which is kind of crazy, because a light in the fog could totally just be like a lightning bug. You know, like there's a lot of things in nature that just kind of make lights.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't have to be a monster or a spirit.
But this is the explanation for people that didn't understand those things back then.
Right.
So just like the Fouglet, Will-o'-the-Wisps have an evil nature about them. Though they seem innocent, many believe they will lead a traveler's ultimate demise. Considered to be carried by spirits who have been banned from both heaven and hell, Will-o'-the-Wisps have been cursed to the earth. They haunt and raise havoc for the living.
So very much like a ghost thing. Like the ghost didn't go where it was supposed to, and now it's stuck here.
Yep. Some sightings include a ball of fire like a lantern or torch carried by a dark, shadowy figure, but the figure can't be clearly seen despite the light. Those ghostly men have some fascinating origin stories. So Will-o'-the-Wisp is short for William of the Wisps.
Look at old Bill.
Yep. Good old Bill. The story goes that a
Wispy Bill. I don't really have any friends named William. I need to find one and just call him Wispy Will.
Wispy Will. Oh, dear. The story goes that a blacksmith named William died and went to heaven and met St. Peter at the Golden Gates. William was such a naughty man that St. Peter asked him to try again and do better in a second life. But William did not do better in the second go-around. His deeds were monstrous, so St. Peter cursed him to roam the land forever. The devil must have had sympathy for wicked William, because he gave him a piece of coal to warm himself on bitterly cold nights. Instead of using the coal for warmth, though, William made it a torch and lured people into danger. Yeah.
Okay.
So horrible person in his first life, horrible person in his second life, gets cursed to the earth to walk it forever, and still remains a horrible person.
So the lesson here
at all.
The lesson here is, if you don't want to die,
don't be like William,
and you want another chance to live another life, you just have to be naughty enough that St. Peter sends you back to live a second life.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe you could live a better life, or you could be like William and just be naughty still. I love that the word naughty is used here. And do terrible things. Or, like Rob the Princess says in chat, well, I would think more often it's another person with a lantern or something, talking about the source of the light as opposed to like lightning bugs. But the myth is meant to make you mistrust what would likely be a sign of relief and help.
Mm-hmm.
Why would the myth do? Usually myths do have some sort of something there. Like it's a warning story about like, get baptized or something terrible is going to happen.
Yeah, this is probably what the kind of the I mean, the story is, like this is obviously, this dude William was horrible and got like not only like locked out of heaven, but was so bad that they didn't even send him to hell. They just sent him to wander the earth,
right?
And like basically like eternal penance, I guess, which he still didn't do. It didn't matter, but like,
right.
I mean, this is obviously a story of, like, be faithful to God and like,
right.
Don't like, the kind of like be kind to your neighbor kind of stuff too. So
right, you're going to end up in this sort of hell instead of the other kind of hell, but it's still going to be terrible. Yeah, but from the flip side of like warning to children, I would think that like the story here, beyond just the God side of it, is just something like, don't just follow lights off into the fog, because then you're going to get lost and eaten by like an alligator in the swamp, right? Like it's something as simple as, you know, like be afraid of the fog and lights in the fog, stay home, don't wander off. It's usually something pretty simple like that. All right. So is there more?
Yeah. So there's another bit about jack-o'-lanterns.
Okay.
Which I think is very interesting.
Wait, so like the pumpkins that we carve out for Halloween with like candles in them?
Yeah. So the tale of jack-o'-lantern is similar. The lantern is carried around by a man named Jack. Jack was a drunk who sold his soul to the devil so that he'd pay for his bar tab.
Must have been a hefty bar tab.
Yeah. When the devil came to collect Jack's soul after settling his debt, Jack lured the devil into a tree. Jack then drew a cross under the tree, trapping the devil. Later, when Jack finally met his natural death, he was rejected from heaven and had to beg the devil for a place in hell. But the devil chose to exact his revenge and cursed Jack to wander the land with only a small flame to see by.
You know what's so strange about these stories is that hell is preferable to just wandering the earth as a spirit. But isn't hell supposed to be like eternity of torment? How can wandering the earth be worse than an eternity of torment in hell?
I don't know.
It's weird, right?
Maybe like this. Why am I getting added? Okay, my bad. Discord notification. I was like, what's messaging me right now?
Discord? We're busy. We're talking about jack-o'-lanterns.
Yep. So I guess like maybe like back in the like times where these kinds of like stories were like more widely believed, like I wonder if the concept of hell wasn't nearly as like I would say fleshed out,
permanent.
Like, maybe.
Yeah, Ran in chat says you think maybe they had a chance of getting out of hell. Like I can imagine in the Catholic context of like purgatory, you would stay in a place that wasn't great, but it wasn't hell until you were prepared, you were cleansed enough or whatever in order to go to heaven. And you can reduce the time that you would spend in purgatory by doing things like paying the church money and all of the terrible stuff that was terrible. And there's lots of reasons for that. But typically if you went to hell, that was it. Like that's where you go. You're going to burn.
Was it the idea of finality? Because even like in the place of eternal punishment that hell is, like it's still a final, like a final place for you to go. Is the thought of like not having that finality, like where you're cursed to always wander,
or the fact that you can't hurt anybody else anymore. Like if you're stuck on earth as some angry spirit, then you could haunt your, the people in your family for generations, or the, people in your village. And that becomes more dangerous to them. And so that seems like a bad thing, as opposed to like what you're saying is going away and just being gone. Like this horrible person is now gone. We don't have to worry about them anymore. But oh no, now they're back and they do terrible things and we'll never get rid of them because they're an angry spirit. And how that would be scarier for the people who are still alive.
Yeah. Or was the devil just like, I don't want to see this dude's face ever again. I'm just going to keep him up here. I'm going to go downstairs. You stay up here. I don't ever want to see your face. I'm this mad at you.
Right.
It's quite, I don't know. So, but I mean, it's still an eternal punishment to be like this. And I imagine that there's other like stipulations. I mean, they just have to wander with with only a flame, but they can't like be a part of society because they're not alive.
Right.
They can't eat. They can't enjoy the things of life. And apparently they could still feel things like the cold and whatnot. So like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I think where I'm going to land on it is it would be worse for the people still alive. And so therefore it is a worse punishment because they're thinking about themselves. They're not so worried about the terrible person and why he didn't go where he was supposed to go. All right. So, but there's more details here about the faux fillet.
So according to Louisiana's lore, a faux fillet cannot cross iron, which I think is a pretty wide concept when it comes to just spirits in general.
Yeah, spirits in iron or silver or water. or things like garlic, certain types of herbs, salt.
Yeah. Placing the iron onto the ground between the traveler and the fillet will keep the spirit from crossing. One story suggested staking a pocket knife into a fence post. And it said that the fillet would begin playing with the knife and leave the traveler alone.
It's like a toddler who's like, what's
this?
He
just gets distracted
poke.
by it.
Right. Okay.
And then that's about it for just faux fillet folklore. But there is a bit of an explanation as for the possible or the reasoning for the whole light in the fog phenomena.
Right. Beyond just like somebody with a torch or like a lightning bug. There's another actual natural explanation.
Yes. So swamps and bogs, which are generally where these kinds of things are considered to be seen most often. I mean, even in Witcher, foglets, you see them a lot in these swampy areas. They contain stagnant water deprived of oxygen, which is the ideal environment for bacteria and microorganisms to thrive. These organisms consume dead plant material and release methane and phosphine gas. Phosphine is believed to be the cause of the eerie, mysterious orbs. Some scientists say that phosphine will spontaneously combust, and then others believe that the orbs actually have bioluminescence to them, similar to that of a lightning bug. Right.
So the smells that you smell, methane, phosphine gas, if you're in a bog and you're like, oh, it kind of smells like gross in here. That's what that is. It's the gases coming out of the bacteria and stuff sitting on the surface of the water. And you get enough of that building up, and either it lights or it just kind of glows a little bit because it's kind of this active compound.
And of course, it's a very quick phenomena. So all you would really see is just a momentary bit of light, and it's like,
where did that come from?
Lost in the swamp. They're like, oh my god, this is a person, maybe. But essentially, it's kind of that also just plays off into that same effect because, of course, people didn't know sciences like this of kind of like the eerie feeling of not seeing something, not being alone, that is accompanied with it. So kind of the explanation for it.
Infected astronaut in chat says, don't cast Igni in a swamp.
Don't.
You just take out the whole swamp.
What happens in The Witcher is that there's the pockets of the thick gas in The Witcher. And if you cast Igni, it explodes and you can damage yourself if you're close enough to it.
Yeah.
So this is the same concept here, but as stated before, if you see a light in a swamp, don't go near it.
Don't go to it.
Especially if it has the opportunity to spontaneously combust.
Right. It could be a terrible person. It could be a bug.
A monster.
It could be a monster. It could be gas that explodes. You could just get lost in the swamp. You could step on a snake or an alligator.
You could fall into water and have leeches crawl down your trousers.
Yeah, leeches down the trousers. There's a whole lot of bad reasons. A whole lot of things you don't want to see out in the middle of a swamp in the fog. So this is another lesson on don't ever leave your house.
Essentially.
Yeah. So I'm just never going to leave my house and make sure that my house doesn't become a swamp.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty significant for you. So.
I mean, I do live in Florida.
You live in Florida,
and it gets pretty wet.
Everglades are essentially swampy.
Yeah, I'm not south enough to be in the Everglades, but if the water levels continue to rise, I will have beachfront property within a few years.
Hey, that's expensive stuff,
Yeah, people are going to want that because then it'll be underwater a few years after that.
Yeah. Hey, that's opportune timing. Those
Sweet.
5 years, perfect. Then you need to relocate.
Perfect. Yeah, I think the actual stats were something like 100 years from now. I don't remember what it was. It was something people were looking into it for Florida, for Floridians, basically, because most of us are only a few feet above sea level. But my property, 100 years from now would be beachfront property which really isn't that long. Like, I'm not going to be around in 100 years, but somebody is. And like, that's pretty messed up because I'm a good distance from the ocean currently. That's weird. But anyway, yeah, Foglets. I wonder if there's Foglets down in the Everglades.
You should go look.
I should go look.
You should do you should go on a contract.
Get one of those like fan boats and like go around, see if I can find any Foglets.
Yeah, I doubt you'll find Foglets. Probably find a lot of
gators,
alligators. Yeah,
big ones too.
A lot of alligators. So be careful of that.
Big ones.
Granted, you could go to a golf course and see an alligator, so it's really not like that big of a deal. So
it's true. We've got an alligator in the lake, like in our little community. There's a lake, or it's a few little lakes, but there's one with a big alligator in it. The biggest monster, biggest real world monster I've seen is an alligator that was probably about 12 feet long. And it was at the end of a dock. I worked at a camp like one summer in college, and sure enough, lots of alligators in that lake. I saw them all the time because I was a boat guard. I would the kids would go out in their canoes and stuff, and I would zip around in my little boat in order to make sure that alligators didn't get too close, which sounds terrifying when you think about it. But never had any issues because most alligators don't attack people unless you get close to their nests or whatever. But there was one that went across the front of that, like the dock, and the dock itself is a good 12 feet across. And the span of the alligator across the front of the dock was longer than that. So it was at least a 12-foot long gator, which is just gigantic. Like the head of a gator like that is like your torso.
Yeah. I think because my stepdad does like a lot of hunting stuff or whatever. He's done alligator hunting before. I think the biggest one he's ever gotten was like 9, 10, something like that. So that's still significantly smaller than the thing you saw.
There's some big ones.
I mean, I see videos all the time, just because I think I can't remember. There was one that went around for a bit where it was just this massive hulking alligator on like a golf course, and it was just like walking around, and I was like, that thing is gigantic.
It's just like a dinosaur. It's it's like a little dinosaur just walking around. Oh man, crazy stuff. Well, be careful out in the fog. Look out for alligators. Don't use Igni in the swamp.
Don't use Igni in the swamp.
You got anything else you want to share before we head out? That's gonna do it for this week.
Still doing the Cyberpunk Lorecast with my co-host Genesis. Didn't have an episode this past week either due to some personal stuff, but it happens sometimes. All good. Be back this week. And then also doing Cyberpunk still, Cyberpunk apostrophe D, Cyberpunk Red Light Play podcast with the Fumbling For and Almighty Crit gang. So
nice. Yeah, the big update with the ray tracing for Cyberpunk looks really, really cool. I don't have a 4090 RTX card, but if I did, I would try it out. I've got a 3080, which means it would run, but it would run really choppy. So I'm not sure if it's worth trying it or not, or waiting to get an upgrade at some point. But the fact that it's almost full ray tracing and it looks really cool, and it is now there is some difference. Like if you play the game with just regular game lighting, and then you played the game with the ray tracing that was already in it, it's kind of a nice difference, but you really have to look. This jump is significant. And so that makes me excited about The Witcher 4. Are we going to get The Witcher 4 with technology 2 or 3 years down the line with full ray traced lighting on everything? Can you imagine how spooky a swamp would be with actual light playing through the fog in the way it really does and all of that? That sounds really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't turn your brights on in fog too, by the way.
It just makes everything white.
Yeah. A lot of people say turn the brights on, and I'm just like, no, that's bad. You don't do that.
Yeah.
It just reflects your the light back at you.
Right. That's why cars that are meant to drive through foggy have like fog lights low to the ground, so it shoots underneath the fog. But yeah. Anyway, but you guys know where my stuff is. robotsradio.net for all of my shows, all the different lorecasts that I do, and we'll be back next week with our patrons. So come join us, check out the live show. And just a reminder, if you want to check out the live show, we stream usually on Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, but our patron chats are in the evenings. So next week will be in the evening, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So come hang out with us during the live chat. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you are a patron, if you have some thoughts on what we should discuss next week, let us know. And we'll see you then. So stay safe, everybody. And until next time,
stay safe on the path.
On the path, stay safe. That's the place. All right, see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in to the Witcher Lorecast. We'd love to hear about your experiences with the games and the books and the TV series and all your thoughts on everything. Please check out the Robots Radio Discord and follow us on Twitter at Witcher Lorecast.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.